Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Educational AD Podcast and this version of FIAAA Insider. Our guest today is the great Pam Lancaster. Pam is a certified Master Athletic Administrator, and she's the Director of Athletics for Auburndale High School. Welcome, Pam.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me. And I just want to say congratulations to you on this venture that you're having with the new podcast. I think it's a great idea, and I'm so glad to be part of it.
Well, we're excited and we're having a lot of fun. But as you know, an athletic director's day is very busy, so we're going to jump right into it. We always like to start off, tell the listeners, a little bit about Pam. Where'd you come from? Where'd you go to school?
Well, actually, I was born in Illinois, so from up north, and in my early years of school, I lived in Pennsylvania and Arizona, and grew up in my junior high school, and college years in Michigan. And I'm a big University of Michigan fan. And I went to a high school in Flint, Michigan called Carmen High School. And as long as I can remember, in my early years, I've always wanted to be a teacher. I've always wanted to be a part of education. And I've always been involved in sports early on, so that just seemed to be the direction that I was headed. I competed in various sports: basketball, volleyball, softball, and played those sports in high school. So on to Calvin College at Grand Rapids, Michigan. I attended there and got my teaching degree majored in physical education, minored in social sciences. And then I went on later on and got my master's in educational leadership at St. Leo University here in Florida. And then just recently, a few weeks ago, got my CMAA, which I'm really was excited about to finally accomplish that. And so it's been a great road, and I've been 36 years teaching and beginning my 20th year this upcoming year as an athletic administrator. So I'm really excited about that.
Wow, great stories. And for me, it was great to be a part of helping you with that CMAA. You joined a very elite group of athletic directors. Well, let's talk a little bit about your career. You were involved in sports and athletics. You mentioned that you always wanted to be a teacher. What was that first, real teaching and coaching job, and how did that lead you into a career in athletic administration?
Well, as I said before, I've always been involved, and my first teaching career brought me down to Florida from Michigan. And I kind of like this area, so I was looking for teaching jobs because as a student athlete in college, when I played softball, we always came down here for our spring trainings. And that was the very first time I'd ever been to Florida as a freshman in college. And so I really liked the Central Florida area. And so I got my first teaching job as a PE teacher, and I taught life science to middle schoolers at Lakeland Christian High School here in Lakeland, Florida. And then from then on, I went and got introduced to coming to Auburndale High School, which led me to another great experience when I was able to open up a brand new high school at Tenoroc High School in 2008. And in both of those times, I was athletic director, dean of students, and then brought me back here 5 years ago to Auburndale High School, which has been a great move back because I live in Auburndale, and this is a great community to be a part of. And in all the sports that I've played, I've been on travel ball teams, I've played on city league teams, way back youngster, I played on a little a boys t-ball team because they didn't have it for girls. They didn't have softball, at that young. So I've always been a part of sports. A highlight of my life was when I had the opportunity here in Central Florida to play on a professional women's baseball team, which was before they had the professional softball available. And when that came on, it kind of dissolved the professional baseball team because a lot of those athletes went on to play professional softball. So it's just been a great experience. And it's kind of, as I said before, it's led me to the direction where I am today because of all the experiences that I was able to have.
We're going to talk about some of your mentors in a minute, but you brought up your experience of opening up Tenoroc High School, a brand new school. I've been involved in a couple of those over my career. Share with our listeners some of the unique challenges of literally starting from scratch, and also some of the joys of being there at the birth of a school.
It was definitely, it was a great opportunity, but it was definitely an experience and a lot of work. I was put in a situation where I was still athletic director here at Auburndale High School. Um, and then the spring of, in 2009, or excuse me, it'd be in 2008 school year in the spring. Not only was I working on the schedules for Auburndale High School to get them ready for the upcoming school year, but I also had to help in hiring the coaches with my principal and also get the schedules together. So it was a dual role, actually trying to help out two high schools. And that was really an experience to keep all that in line. But the really neat stuff was to be a part of a lot of firsts and a lot of traditions, actually making the traditions, starting, something as simple as picking out well, not as simple, but picking out new uniforms. And I know we were involved in the school colors and the mascot and just the newness of the facilities. It was a great experience. And I was glad I was able to have that opportunity to do so.
Let's talk about some of the people that have impacted your career as a high school, college athlete, as a young teacher, coach. Who are some of your mentors that really had an impact on who you are today?
Well, I go back and think of how everything has evolved, and I think when I became a coach myself, there were I think we all draw on the things that we'd like to see as a coach from coaches that we've had. I think we also see things that we say, well, I wouldn't do that, but I was blessed to have a lot of great coaches growing up, and probably one of the mentors in my professional life that stands out in my mind right now is Mr. Ernest Joe. He was my principal at Auburndale, and he's the one I followed to Tenor Rock with, to open up that school together. And I just really, he's helped me immensely in my profession, because he was the one that really gave me the opportunity back in 2001 to take a chance on me as an athletic director. And he still allowed me to be a coach as I was an athletic director, because I really wasn't ready to give up the coaching reins yet. And he allowed me to prove to him that I would be able to do all of that, coach two sports and be athletic director and dean of students. And I just really appreciate his guidance and him giving the opportunity to do that. And it's great because we still keep in touch today, and he still has his advice to give me, and so it's really neat to have that person around.
I was going to ask if you still are in touch. That's great.
Yes.
You can still have him as a resource and as a friend.
Definitely.
Let's talk right now. You and I are both in Florida, but nationwide, COVID is having an impact on high school and high school athletics. We know we've seen some states have delayed their start for 2 weeks or whatever. In Florida right now, we're planning on our regular opening at the end of July. What are some things that you're doing right now at Auburndale High School during the summer with your coaches, your athletes, and your parents in regards to return to play?
Well, we were given the opportunity to actually open up to some summer workouts back on June 15th. Now that wasn't without a lot of, and it's been a challenge to be able to do so, because we've had to have a, we're following CDC guidelines. We've had to have a return to play policy that all my coaches had to read and everything. And the only sports that have come back per se are my football and boys basketball. And I know volleyball is going to try to start up a little bit next week. We have cheer tryouts next week, but we're all under the guidelines of, they have, the social distancing. We do daily temperature checks. We also have make sure that now, as of yesterday, our indoor sports are going to have to wear masks. That came out just recently. And it's going to be interesting to, and they have to be in groups of 10. We are in phase 2 as of this past week, which means we still have to have the groups of 10 indoors, but we can have up to 50 outdoors, and it's still maintaining the social distancing. So it's been a challenge, and I applaud my coaches. There's one thing that I implemented though before any of my coaches could begin their summer workouts. They had to submit their game plan to how they're going to conduct their workouts, from where, the daily temperature checks, what they're going to do as far as drills, because right now we can't pass balls back and forth, like in basketball, it has to be individual shooting. And I just needed to see it in writing so I knew that they were aware of what was presented to them, and then I could make sure when I stop in that I see that, going on, as opposed to we have football parking in the back parking lot and we have volleyball parking in the front, just trying to keep distance and not have gatherings, and try to do the best we can. And I think I think the kids were just eager to get back, and that was a positive too. And one thing that's been a little bit of adjustment is they've had to bring their own water or thermoses and provide that, because I've had to cover all the drinking fountains. And so that's been something that that we've had to keep an eye on, so people aren't trying to sneak into those and everything. So I'm happy that it's been a challenge, but it's neat to see the kids just enjoying being out there, back participating and being around each other and with the coaches.
Yeah, I think that's the one constant from school to school, is that the kids, the coaches, and the parents are glad, that, we're being allowed to get out there and get out of the house. Let's stay current for a minute. This spring and summer has certainly seen, social issues, on the news throughout the country. From your position as an athletic director, what are some things that we can do better with regards to promoting diversity and just promoting this idea of positive social interactions?
Well, I think in Auburndale, definitely we have diversity in our students and our staff, and I just think with all that you say, mentioned is going on in our society, I firmly believe we just need to have a continuous dialogue, and not only with our student athletes or our students at Auburndale High School, and our staff and our coaches, and just continue to not only model, but the importance of being respectful and understanding, and just supportive of all the viewpoints, and just show that I think we can always do better as far as being more caring and loving to one another, and realizing that we can all learn from one another, and just be open-minded, and just, and not be closed-minded what's going on, and just show these student athletes that and students that we work with on a daily basis that we care about them. It doesn't matter what color they are, it doesn't matter where they came from, and that's something we all can strive to do better at.
You hear a saying in coaching and talking about athletic administration that everybody wants our job on Friday nights, the glory, but nobody wants our job during the week or during the summer. What are some favorite parts of your job as an athletic director, or going back to when you were coaching?
Well, I think as a coach and as an athletic director, hands down, one of my favorite things is interacting and engaging with my student athletes. And I heard at a state conference that I was at one time, one of the speakers was talking about, and it's always stuck with me, when they say, find something that you love to do, then you don't have to work a day in your life. And he broke it down into a job is something you do every day, career is something that you do for a long time, which I feel I've been doing this for a long time. But the third thing really hit hard to me, and a calling is something you love and were meant to do. And I think that's where I'm at, and that's why, I enjoy being with the student athletes, whether it be in the hallways, at lunch, just checking in on them at practices, and then obviously when we are scheduled to work a lot of the athletic events, just watching these student athletes compete and represent our high school. Even when I'm not scheduled to be at a game, I find myself going just because I like to be there. But we all know it's kind of nice when you're not scheduled to be there. You can show up at game time and not early to meet the officials and, and all that kind of stuff. But it's just, it also provides a great way to build those relationships, have those conversations. And it's just a great time. And I know if I could tell a story here real quick, a couple of years ago, because it follows up with this, I did a what I called Shadow My Teams project. And what involved is where I participated in practice of almost all of my varsity sports. And at that practice, I was actually one of the student athletes. I had buy-in from my coaches. Some of them, I think, enjoyed it a little bit too well, my coaches. But the positive and encouraging comments from the student athletes when they saw me there, because I think a lot of them thought I couldn't do some of the stuff that I was asked to do and stuff. But I even heard it from the parents. They couldn't believe that I did that, the coaches, and it was just truly overwhelming, the response that I had. But to be there in the trenches with those student athletes side by side, I actually wore the football pads and the helmet and hitting those practice dummies, and learned how to do a flip turn in swimming, running with the cross country runners, doing the drills with the girls and boys basketball team and soccer players, and the passing drills and volleyball and fielding drills and softball, and took some BP with the baseball team. And it was just probably a real highlight of my career, and really stepping out of the box for me, because to me it was just like riding a bike with the softball and the baseball and the volleyball and and everything. But the other sports, really, it was kind of, I was nervous going to practice, because I'm not as young as I used to be, and then what the kids would think of me. But just to see them, they were really encouraging and, compliment me when I was doing something right. And it's probably one of the best experiences. And then we put it all on social media, and the news, our school news, followed it. So it was kind of a big deal, like, where's Coach Lancaster today, and all that kind of stuff. So that was probably one of the highlights, because I enjoy being around the student athletes so much, and to be with them, and that just helped build relationships even more.
That's fantastic. I've heard of a couple other ADs that did that. I remember doing that as a very young coach, but it is neat to see the looks on the kids' faces. They don't realize that, hey, we have game, or we used to have game. So that's very cool. You mentioned that, this is year 20 as an athletic administrator. Certainly you've been involved in sports for a long time and have worked with ADs. How have you seen, from your perspective, the job of the school-based athletic director change over the years, from maybe when you first started out coaching to, now with all the things that we've already discussed today? How's it changed?
I think for me, it's still a very important job, and I think it's one that, whether we like it or not, the positive and the negative, because we always hear the stuff from the parents and everything. It's part of the face of the school, because athletics is an important part, and each day usually offers something different. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy this also. But I think one of the biggest things I've noticed since I've started as being an athletic director 19 years ago is the technology. I know, and I'm back in the day when I remember actually mailing game contracts through snail mail, and and calling officials to schedule them for games and everything like that. And now it's just all in. We have apps, we have online, and everything like that, which has been very beneficial and helped make our jobs a little bit better and more efficient. And, because we can schedule online, we can schedule buses and, and everything like that. So that's a big change for me, or how it's changed as far as the way you do the job, the importance of it, being visible, the relationships that you build, and the mentoring of the coaches, student athletes. I think that's the same, except we have more resources to guide us and help us do a better job at that.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully this interview will be used as a resource too. let's expand on that a little bit. I want you to share with our listeners a time in your athletic director career where you had a challenge. Maybe it was a coach, maybe it was a parent, and just briefly how you worked through that challenge to resolve it and turn it into a success.
Well, I think, and I'll go with, because I've dealt with this a little bit, I think, well, we all have, I know, is that parent that gives you that phone call or stops in unannounced, because they feel their child has maybe been treated unfairly, or they did not make the team when they thought they should make the team, whatever. Really doesn't matter what the situation is. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned over the years is just to listen. Because at the end of the day, and when we get to the end of the conversation and everything like that, a lot of times they don't agree with you still. They don't like the answers that you're giving, and all that kind of, stuff. But you can talk them down because you just listen. I've learned this a hard way because I've done it both ways. If you try to start talking to them and not letting them, then it just escalates. And I think you can just learn a lot and just hear them out. And so many times we want to interject because we know what they're saying is not true or something like that, but we just have to hear them out and then understand how they can feel that way and everything. And then now they're more open to listen to what you have to say once you can de-escalate the situation. And I find that that's very helpful in my situations.
That is so true. I think that's probably, the single hardest thing that I had to learn as a coach, as an AD, is shut up and listen, let them get it off their chest. And sometimes they're right. Maybe it was an assistant coach that said something or did something, or maybe I did something wrong, but you're absolutely right. Listening.
And the fact that you can tell
key.
them that, like you said, I've had that situation too, where you say, well, thank you so much. If you hadn't made me aware of this, I wouldn't be able to deal with it or look into it. And a lot of times that helps them out too and stuff.
Well, gosh, the time has just flown. We're at our final segment, which we like to call the Athletic Director's Toolbox. You are putting together a toolbox for a brand new first-time athletic director. What are the 3 things that you are going to put in that toolbox to help that AD have a successful first year?
I'm thinking in this toolbox, and it's probably going to be a little out of the box because they're not actually physical things you can put in this toolbox. But one of the 3 pieces of advice I would give is, as a beginning and brand new athletic director, is I would encourage them, ask questions. Don't be afraid to seek help, because none of us could do it all on our own when we all started out. We still seek help. Even I do, and I'm entering my 20th year. And I just think that's so important. There are people who are out there that are just so willing to help you. And maybe we don't know you need help, or, so the very first thing is, just ask questions. The second thing is, and I've learned this throughout the years, and if I knew this earlier, that might have helped me too, but go ahead and borrow ideas on how to do things. I mean, whether it's through reading, whether it's through other athletic directors, programs you want to implement, there's no reason that you have to reinvent the wheel, and borrow ideas that you think will fit at your school. And it might be how to do certain paperwork or organize certain things or actual programs. I think that's very important for a brand new AD to realize that it's okay to do that. It's okay to, use ideas from other people. It's kind of complementary to those other people that you think their ideas are worth looking at and wanting to implement. And then thirdly, probably the most important thing, I think, to help to be an effective AD is develop the importance of knowing how to, and make sure you do, develop those relationships with your student athletes and your coaches. You want to be that athletic director that the kids know who you are, because I know I've been at some high schools before and they didn't even know who the athletic director was. And you can start out, number one, by being visible. In the past years, probably last 8 to 10 years, that's something I've tried to do a little bit more. And as I've mentioned before earlier, not just, the sporting events, but do the extra. You see an athlete in the hallway, and just engage at lunchtime, stopping by the practices. I go to band concerts because we have a lot of student athletes. They're just not athletes. We find that they are also in a lot of clubs. I've been to chorus concerts. Anything they do. I know back when I had a student athlete that was a clogger. It wasn't even part of our school, and she asked me to come watch her clog. So I went and did that. So all of those little things, it takes time, but it goes so far when you're trying to develop those relationships with the student athletes.
Well, I think that toolbox would definitely help any new or veteran AD. Well, Pam, thank you so much for visiting with us today. Really enjoyed it. You're not just a colleague, but a friend. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks for having me.
I want to thank everyone for listening today as well. Our next episode will be available on Monday, June 27th. And that's going to be an interview with Jay Getty, who's the athletic director for Auburndale High School in Central Florida. Please, like and follow and share our podcast with your friends. And if you have some suggestions, please let us know. This has been the FIAAA Insider on the Educational AD Podcast. Thanks for listening.